We are live today. Not exciting news. It's sad news today. The one and only Jeff Goodman was not the final hire at his alma mater. Arizona went outside the Arizona family, and they actually got themselves a pretty good hire. And I'm playing it off like I'm sad, but I do think that this is Tommy Lloyd is the next head coach at Arizona. I think this is a really good hire. I think it's really interesting. I do give some credit to that administration for having the cojones to go outside the Arizona family. It's not going to be the most popular decision, but I do think that they actually did make a pretty good decision here. So there's a lot to talk about regarding this. There's a lot to get into. But Jeff, I mean, you were as plugged in on this search as anybody on the planet. So can you just kind of take us, the Arizona fans, the college basketball fans, even Gonzaga fans, through how it ended up coming down to Tommy Lloyd and whether or not some of these other big names were really involved?
Yeah, it's where it started. It started with Tommy Lloyd and the Arizona guys and the family, Damon Stoudamire, Miles Simon, Josh Pastner, and ultimately it kind of turned back. They tried some big names, Rob. They did. They tried the Brad Stevenses and the Tony Bennett's and obviously the Mark Fewes. And my sources said they reached out to Matt Painter. We know Musselman was involved and, got some more money out of it. Mark Pope was a guy that was in the mix. So I think, again, there were a lot of names that popped up, but ultimately it came down to Tommy Lloyd because, frankly, they felt a lot of those guys weren't going to do it. They weren't going to take it, right? All those guys. Frankly, they weren't going to take it probably even if there was no looming NCAA penalties coming. They did the 1-year self-imposed postseason ban, but there could be more, and there probably will be more. There might be another year. So, yes, I understand the former, and I'm upset in a way that they didn't keep it in the family. Mike Woodson at Indiana, Juwan Howard at Michigan, Hubert Davis at Carolina. Would I have liked to have seen Damon Stoudamire run this program? Absolutely. Absolutely. That doesn't mean I think Tommy Lloyd is a bad choice here. And I think the two are separate here. Again, I think Damon would have done a great job. I mean, he's grinded it. He's earned it. He's been at Pacific the last few years and done a great job at Pacific. Tommy Lloyd has done a great job building this Gonzaga program into a better program than Arizona right now. Period.
Yeah. The one thing I would say about Damon is that it's a little bit the same situation as Penny, where he's a guy that has like 9 figures in his bank account. He's that his great grandchildren are never going to have to worry about finances, right? Like he has generational wealth.
Yeah, sure.
But he's not a guy. It's not like it's been handed to him on a silver spoon. He's worked his way up. Penny started as an assistant coach on the JV girls middle school team or something like that. Like he legitimately worked his way. If his name was Steve Hardaway instead of Penny Hardaway, then we would all be celebrating. Like, look at this guy, rags to riches, working his way up from the bottom. What a grinder! Let's celebrate this. And Damon, it's a little bit different with Damon because he has been on staff at Memphis and he has been on staff at Arizona and he's been a head coach at Pacific for a while. But again, it's another situation where he's really, really worked his way up. And I also want to make a point. Both of us have credited Arizona for the way that they handled the search by going out and taking big swings and then going back to your core group of guys and interviewing them and making a decision from there. And I've had a couple of Indiana fans that have basically said to me, like, what is the difference between this? You crushed Indiana for what they did. And now you're celebrating Arizona for what they did.
Well, and they're completely different. Come on, Mike Woodson hired a 63-year-old NBA coach who's never coached in college. They're not even close.
Hold on. Let me finish.
All right. It was stupid, though. Stupid.
No, the one major difference is that Arizona had 4 guys that were home run high. Well, maybe not necessarily all of them were home run hires, but 4 really, really, really good hires that we're all going to say yes at the drop of a hat. Josh Pastner would have been a pretty good hire. Miles Simon would have been a really good hire. Damon Stoudamire would have been a great hire. Tommy Lloyd, he's a great hire. All 4 of those guys were going to say yes. Yep. And you always had that in your back pocket. So you could go out and you could try to get Brad Stevens knowing that, you know what? We can still get Tommy Lloyd. The difference is with Indiana is that it felt like their plan after Archie Miller was like, okay, we can go get Brad Stevens now. Okay, we can go get Chris Holtman now, as opposed to being like, well, let's just kick the tires on these guys and then see what happens, because we always have this fallback option. When your fallback option is a 63-year-old that hasn't been in college basketball for literally 4 decades, for my entire life, the entire time that I've been on planet Earth, Mike Woodson has not been in college basketball, and that was your safety net. Like, it's a little bit.
You didn't even know who Mike Woodson was.
Different. Yeah, I didn't. I honestly did not.
I mean, seriously, it again, you can't compare the two. I haven't seen the Indiana fans. They'll kill me for anything right now. But the bottom line is, again, they're two totally different situations. Tommy Lloyd has only known college basketball. He's got contacts overseas, throughout the U.S. They've recruited nationally. You know, they got a top 10 player coming in Hunter Salas. They've had some pros, you know, not like they haven't had some pros recently. Jalen Suggs may go number 2 in the draft and could be a top 5 point guard in the NBA someday. Domas Sabonis is an all-star. They've had some pretty good players lately, and they've had to build it, you know, from scratch. Now, Arizona did that too, but it's a lot harder to do it in Spokane, Washington, in the WCC.
And you know what else? Tommy Lloyd, where does he thrive? In the transfer portal and by basically shopping overseas, right? By recruiting players overseas. And what is Arizona going to really have to thrive on now that they're in a situation where they have some recruiting restrictions, where maybe the possibility of like COVID shutdowns not allowing us to have certain kind of spring and fall events, probably not knowing the 2022 class as well as he maybe needs to be able to go out and recruit them. So what does he have to do? He's going to have to work the transfer portal, and he's going to have to go get guys from overseas and work his contacts there. And that's the perfect situation right now for him, I think. So look, I think Damon and Miles would have been really good hires. I think that when you can go out and get a guy like Tommy Lloyd, who basically everybody would want, is probably the best assistant coach in the country right now, who was integral in building Gonzaga into a top 3 program in the sport right now. So
it's a better program today than Arizona.
Like to a point, I get it, but like also, yeah, look, you want to keep it in the family. Like I'm going to try to get Vassar next time it opens up, but it's never going to happen. So
yeah, I mean, again, I get it, and it's even harder for the former players because, again, they're seeing Woodson, they're seeing Hubert Davis and Damon is more qualified than both of them. It's not even close, right? Miles Simon is more qualified. He's been, well, maybe not. You know, Hubert's been 9 years in college basketball. Miles Simon was a couple years at Arizona, at ESPN. He's been to the Lakers. So ultimately, you look at it and you say, like, yeah, they're way more qualified. Now, again, Mike Woodson's been an NBA head coach. That's a little bit of a difference maker there that separates him. But Damon, man, like Damon has earned it in so many ways. You know, he started as a director of player development at Rice, making no money. So then he, you know, stints at Memphis, 2 stints, 1 in Arizona, grinding it out of Pacific, which is one of the more difficult jobs in the West Coast Conference, and taking them to, you know, in the middle there, which is not easy to do. So, you know, listen, again, it hurt me because I know Lute Olson would have wanted Damon Stoudamire. I know the former players wanted Damon Stoudamire or Miles or even Josh Pastner. It was the same thing for me watching over the last few weeks with what happened with Hubert and Mike Woodson. But again, I keep going back to it and saying, all right, as an alum, you know, to me, I think you still made a good call here with Tommy Lloyd, and his upside is extremely high because of his connections and what he can do, like you said, internationally through the transfer portal. He's had a ton of responsibility over the last 10 years at Gonzaga, coaching, not just recruiting, but coaching.
Yeah, and the big thing is for the alums that are upset about it. Like, I do think that they probably have every right to be upset about the fact that one of their own is not going to be the one running the program. Like, I totally understand that. You know, if these guys are fired up, if they wanted Damon or they wanted Miles in there, I get that, right? They should want one of their own in there. What I would just say is, like, Give Tommy a chance. You can be mad about this, but give him a chance because I do think he's going to get this program going to the place where you want it to be. And within maybe 2 or 3 years, you're going to be calling him one of the Arizona family too. So that's the only thing that I would say about that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you want Arizona. I mean, for me, I want Arizona basketball to be successful. I do. And I know I'm not supposed to say that, but you do. It's your alma mater, right? Like I've been as objective as I can be over the years about Arizona. In fact, a lot of people think I've probably been too tough on them. And people at Arizona aren't fans of mine, but you want them to be good. That's just the way it is. And I think they have a chance to be really good with Tommy Lloyd and some of his. Now, again, he's going to have to put together a staff here because he's used to being able to recruit a lot internationally. He's not going to be able to take those trips like he used to and just go. So things are going to change for him. In Tucson, there's a lot more responsibility. He's going to have to connect, I think, to the fan base a little bit more, especially, again, this time it's so different than the last time because now everybody's thinking, well, why didn't Damon Stoudamire? Why didn't Miles Simon? Why didn't Josh? So you're already starting from behind. And that's going to be hard for a guy that's dealt with very, very little adversity. Like Tommy Lloyd's never gotten shots taken at him. Never had to. He's been an assistant for a program that's just gone up, 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 up. So how is he going to deal with this right now? How is he going to be able to get some of these players, former players on board? How is he going to be able to get the fans on board? Again, they're diehard fans in Tucson, Arizona. And I think what people are forgetting is he really did help to build this Gonzaga program.
Yeah. Yeah. It is just kind of funny that it's like he gets hired and all of a sudden all of the people that you thought would be welcoming you with open arms like, yeah, what the fuck? You're not Damon Stoudamire. Like, get the hell out of here. We don't like you. So, yeah. So let me ask you this. What is your expectation for what Arizona is going to end up having to deal with in terms of NCAA penalties? Like how bad? It's impossible to like accurately predict this stuff, but how bad do you think this is? Are we talking like 2 or 3 year postseason ban, or is it the kind of thing where like the one they just dealt with and maybe one more, and then you should probably be on the other side of this thing?
Yeah, I think probably if I had to guess, one more. The academic fraud, that's the part you worry about because, frankly, Oklahoma State got 1 year, and we haven't seen, obviously, the appeal, to that yet. But Oklahoma State got 1 year for something similar that occurred with Book Richardson and the bribery. Now you add on 2 other academic fraud components to this. So I would assume they're going to get 1 more year. That'd just be my guess.
The other side of that, though, is that Alabama didn't get any postseason ban. They basically had the same thing with an assistant.
Well, we know, but the assistant was recommended by the NCAA. Like that, the NCAA had to be very careful with that Alabama one, right? I mean, they had to be very, very careful with that one and how they went about it.
But it doesn't change the fact that the same thing that happened with an assistant athletic director at Alabama didn't get a postseason ban, right, and I got a postseason ban at Oklahoma State. Like, of course, there's going to be certain things that play into it because that guy used to be at the NCAA. But like there is some kind of precedence, and there has to be like if you don't have precedence in any of these decisions that you're making, like you're just flying by the seat of your pants. So, I do think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Oklahoma State, though. I would not be surprised to see that appeal get overturned.
Yeah, I mean, you hope it will. It just depends right now. I mean, honestly, it's like the temperature of the NCAA at that time, and things change. And, I think they'll hit Sean Miller harder than they'll hit Arizona in a way because now you can. Right now he's fired. You can look tough and hit him with like a 5-year show cause. And what does it matter, right? You look tough then, but you don't want to bite the hand that feeds you. And Arizona and Kansas, those are 2 of their bigger cash cows. So you got to be a little bit smart in how you handle both of those if you don't have to hammer them and hit them with extra postseason bans. So
it's just amazing to me how in a sport that's all about playing for the love of the game and is all about amateurism and all about making sure that you're doing this for the right reasons and nobody is professional, everything always comes down to money. We can't hammer Arizona and Kansas because we got to be able to profit off of those brands, right? This is the off topic, but Matt Norlander today was tweeting about like potential rule changes, and the NCAA does not want to go to 4 quarters in men's basketball, more or less, because there are a whole bunch of deals and ad deals already in place that involve big money that have to do with the 4 TV timeouts in each half. And we have a nice little amateurism and amateur project here where these kids aren't supposed to be getting paid and it's not supposed to be the pros, but we can't do the one thing that makes sense to be able to, because of all the money that's going to be made off of them. But the players can't make any money, and there's no name in it. It's just the way that you do mental gymnastics to tie yourself in knots to make all of this shit make sense in regards to amateurism. It's just like, it used to be maddening to me, and it still kind of is, but now it's just gotten to the point where it's funny. Like, this is how we're justifying it. Okay. All right. Yeah. At least you're on brand still.
Yeah. No question. I think you're right. And I think ultimately the NCAA is out for themselves. And they could say it's for the student athletes all they want, but for them to survive, so many of the decisions are based on money. And again, NIL they had to do. We won't go into that here, but we'll get back and we'll kind of wrap up here. I
want to wrap up with this. I want to know. So this kind of ends the most significant parts of the coaching carousel, right? There's not anything big or enormous out there that I'm blanking on that still is open. Is there?
Say that again.
There's not any other huge jobs that are open right now.
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's the last one, but again, that's a lower level. So let's do this. I want to know what your favorite hire was, and what the I don't want to say worst because I don't want to put you in that position, but I want to know the hire that left you saying the most. And you're not allowed to say Chris Beard in Texas. You're not allowed to. That's taken off the board.
Seriously?
Everyone knows it's out. That's where you're going to go. So all right, Chris Beard, obvious Texas, best one. Give me the second best hire and the biggest head scratcher.
I'm going to run through. I'm just kind of running through here. As I'm talking to you, I'm running through all the different hires at this point. And the head scratcher, I mean, there are a bunch. There are a bunch of head scratchers this year. I like Drew Valentine a lot at Loyola Chicago to go into Porter Moser's role. I think Drew's a star. I've warmed to the Shaka Smart Marquette one a lot. I wasn't loving it, but now I kind of like it. I don't know if it was you who kind of got me on board, but I'm on board with that one for sure. You know where I stand with the Chris Beard one. I think Mark Adams is going to have a hard time. Replacing Chris Beard at Texas Tech, he took it to a different level where I don't think it'll ever be again. So I feel like you're in a no-win situation there. Ryan Odom all the way at Utah State. Don't understand that one. Don't love it, to be honest. If I'm Ryan Odom, I want to be in my comfort zone. I love Pat Kelsey to Charleston. Love that one. I think that's a terrific hire coming from Winthrop. So those are a few that I would say to me that I like and didn't love. Mike Woodson, again, I just don't love it. I mean, I know like Mike Woodson's a great human being from everything I've heard. I hope he succeeds because, well, I do, but I don't, because Indiana fans, man, they are ruthless. So if he succeeds, it is going to be absolutely brutal for yours truly here on Twitter. But I just don't know why you'd hire a 63-year-old who's never coached in college, and now you're beholden to have to rely on poor Dane Fife. I mean, Dane Fife holds the program in his hands. Like Dane Fife, right?
Yeah, they're fucked.
I mean, they're in trouble. They are in trouble. And I like Dane.
I like Dane. I think they actually did a good job. We're breaking Dane's balls. We know Dane. So I agree with you on most of what you said. I think I was the one that talked you into Shaka because I think that being in a place where you can really just kind of focus on getting 3 to 4 year guys that are going to stay and develop and build a culture and all of that kind of stuff will be really good for him. I think that being able to have a fan base and a crowd that's going to be really loud and passionate is something that will really help. I think we're going to see a little bit more of the pressure defense there. And I really hope that he goes out and he hires an offensive guy to kind of loosen things up on that end of the floor. Yeah, I mean, you kind of nailed it with that. We don't need to rehash the whole Mike Woodson thing. I get what they're trying to do, right? Like I understand what their goal is and what the plan is in Scott Dolson's head. I don't know if it'll work out, but you're definitely much more negative on that hire, I think, than I am. I think it's fine. I get what they're trying to do. And at the very least, they're going to be it seems like that fan base is going to be more engaged. It kind of felt is that a fair way to put it for Indiana fans? It felt like a lot of Indiana fans were kind of disengaged from the program at the end of the Archie Miller era. So I don't think that's necessarily.
I mean, they really wanted one of their own. I think Arizona does, not quite as desperate as Indiana was. Because Indiana hasn't had high level success since Bob Knight. I mean, they've had some here and there, but not what they want. Arizona hasn't been nearly that long. They've had ups and downs, but they've still been – they were pretty darn good under Sean Miller. I mean, for a stretch there, they were making Elite Eights, 3 of them. So it was a little bit different with Sean than Archie. And the fans in Indiana are at a different level than they are at Arizona. Like, they're crazy at Arizona. They're insane at Indiana.
Yeah. yes, they are. And apparently every single one of them has a Twitter account too. So listen, Jeff, this was fun. Do you have anything else to add? Any other notes you want to provide? Any other insight you want to give? You ready to start celebrating being an Arizona fan again? It feels kind of weird that we got an Arizona fan and a UConn fan on this podcast now.
Listen, I'm just, like, obviously I would support whoever they hire. For the most part, there are a couple of people that I didn't want them to hire, but yes, I will support whoever they hire because, again, I always enjoy getting out of the cold weather here in Boston and getting to Tucson, Arizona, where it's 70 degrees in the middle of the winter. So, like, for me, any of those programs, but yeah, your alma mater is always somewhere that you want to be relevant. I mean, Arizona's been a storied program, and I grew very close to Lute Olson over the last 10 or so years, 15 years. And the last conversation I had with him was a little over a year ago at his house with his wife. And he was completely devastated by where the program had kind of gone to. He didn't feel a major connection to Sean Miller at the end. And he just, everything that the program had gone with Sean Miller. And again, I've said this publicly. Do I think everything that was put out there about Sean Miller was accurate? No, I don't. I was part of it. I was there for a part of it, for the story that elevated Sean Miller to a different level than a lot of those other guys. But you also can't discount the things that happened under his watch. There were three major issues that happened under his watch. So the time had come to move on from Sean Miller. And I think, again, the hard part for me in all this is still that I think Lute Olson and the former players are the ones that really would have liked to have seen Damon Stoudamire or somebody in the family, whether it was Miles Simon or Josh Pastner, take the reins here. And it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes. And if Tommy Lloyd doesn't do well, then, man, like, good luck to him, because those former guys are going to come at him.
Yep. And in case anyone wonders how much influence that Jeff Goodman has, he's more powerful than the Koch brothers. It's official. It's official. All right, guys, this was fun. We're going to keep jumping on every once in a while and do this when we have big news breaking. So, yeah, it was fun. Jeff, always a pleasure. Congrats, man, and I'm sorry you didn't